good friends in the vinyl community. Today, I want to do a video just for giggles showing 5 worthless albums in my collection. And by worthless, I mean these albums have a market value of $0. Nobody wants these records. I don't even want these records. I don't know why I have them in my collection. I've done videos like this in the past, but I've never really focused on the dollar value of any of these records. Now, these records you'll probably see in the dollar bins. If you haven't already, you probably haven't paid attention if you don't go looking in the dollar bins. But these albums are absolutely worth $0. Couldn't fetch anything for them on eBay, Discogs. You know, in fact, if you enter these albums on your Discogs, the value of your collection actually drops. You know, normally you enter a record, you start losing value by adding these records to your collection. So just want to go through 5 of these records. Maybe you own them, maybe you don't, but I happen to, and I'm going to show them. So the first record that I want to show is by a Canadian band, and they had a hit in 1986 with Don't Forget Me When I'm Gone. Bryan Adams sang backup on that song. Maybe you remember it. If you were a child of the 80s, I guarantee you probably are at least familiar with it. If you're not, you probably have no idea who the hell Glass Tiger are. Now, I did look up Glass Tiger on Wikipedia, and I'm always surprised, you know, because if a band is defunct, it will say Glass Tiger were a Canadian band in the they'll use the were. Well, I was very shocked to find out that they use the is. Glass Tiger is a Canadian band, which means that they are still putting out albums today. I don't know if they're going straight to streaming or how exactly, because this is the only Glass Tiger record I've ever seen out in the wild. Maybe if I lived in Canada, the story might be a little different, but here in the US, this is the only one that I see, and I only ever see it for $1 if I see it at all. But this is an album I will never be able to get rid of. Nobody wants this record. Matter of fact, I stood outside one of my local record stores with this record, and I had a $50 bill stuffed into the sleeve here. I could not give this record away. Nobody wants it. Nobody's heard of Glass Tiger. There is not some underground Glass Tiger fan base. This album, you don't have to look very far to find it. I think because that song was a hit, it's relatively common that you will find it. But I think, like me, a lot of people bought it for that song, realized the rest of the album was nothing special, and it just sat in your collection. You're stuck with it. And all right, this gem from 1986, David and David. David and, is this David or is this David? I think this is David and this is David. Or this is, I don't know. One of them's David, the other is David. Anyway, this album came out in 1986. It had the smash hit, Welcome to the Boomtown on it. And you know, this is not a bad album. This was a time in the 80s you had kind of Tracy Chapman, who was kind of elevating 80s rock, as it were. You know, the following year, U2 would come out with the Joshua Tree. And so bands were coming out with more socially conscious kind of music. And David and David were both studio musicians who realized that they connected on their musical tastes, and they put this album out. And it was actually really critically received back in the day. I think it sold a fair number of albums because I do see this quite frequently out in the wild. But I don't know. I mean, it's not bad. It's just nobody knows who these guys are. This album was not like an album that defined, a generation or anything special like that. I have it because I remember the song Welcome to the Boomtown, but, and this guy looks like Roger Waters here on the back. But apart from that, like, I don't play it. It's just one of those, I don't know, it was an impulse buy at the time. I thought, ooh, I bet this album's good. And it was okay at best. But $0 because nobody is interested. I tried to take this to the thrift store, dump it off at the thrift store, and they're like, no, sir, you forgot this. Nope, we're good. We don't need this. No, thank you. This one, Gags. Everybody has this album. If you don't have this album, you're a liar. You have this album. Look closer in your collection. And I don't know, like, this song, I think most people buy this record for the song Lowdown, one of the best songs of the disco era. To me, the rest of this album is kind of garbage. I don't care about Lido Shuffle. This album has not aged well at all. It stinks of 1976 when it came out. You got cheesy horns, disco drum beats. It's sort of like the worst of soft rock, yacht rock. It has not really stood the test of time, I guess you could say. I don't play it. I like the song Lowdown a lot, but if I need to hear it, I can play it on Spotify. But I am not taking this to my local record store and having them laugh in my face. We already have 80 copies of this, because anybody who bought this, once the 1990s hit, kind of did a reevaluation of their collection. I'm like, why do I have this? And maybe you're a Gags fan. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little too harsh with Gags. I am not. He's kind of a poor man's Steely Dan, and that's even being very generous. But yeah, you can find a lot of Gags in the dollar bins. Since I don't listen to this, anytime my kids want to play baseball, like in the backyard, and they need bases and we're out of Frisbees, I'll just, use this as your base. This can be third base. Problem solved. But I just don't listen to it, and I can't get rid of it. Nobody wants it. Everybody's already got a copy of this goddamn album. It's second only to Rumors. I think probably in the record that is in most people's record collection. But for me, Elvis. Yeah, Elvis albums are essentially not very valuable. Like, if you pay $3 for an Elvis album, you got ripped off. I hate to tell you. And particularly the ones that are represses with this RCA label here. Now, this is a decent album. If you're an Elvis fan, all kidding aside, I mean, it's Now or Never, Stuck on You, Little Sisters on here, Are You Lonesome Tonight? So, I mean, it is a greatest hits compilation. It's great. People just don't listen to Elvis the way they used to, and that may change because we got the new Baz Luhrmann documentary coming out. But you're not going to get a lot of money for an Elvis RCA repress. And when I say you're not going to get very much, like maybe $1 or $2 at the most. But this album is okay. These represses also were not very good sound quality wise. But I went through a period where I was buying a lot of Elvis, and now this is just kind of an album, like if I ever want to try the wood glue cleaning method, record cleaning method, and I'm afraid to ruin a record, I'll probably pull this one out and be like, I don't care what happens to this record, I'll try it. I'll try any far-fetched cleaning solution that people come up with. This would be a great record to do it. But yeah, I've got volume 1 and volume 2. I hang on to it because there's a chance I may someday get a hankering to play this, but I'm certainly never going to be able to sell it. Record stores have tons. And volume 3, I think in particular, because by then it's like, okay, Elvis is moving into a soundtrack period. The quality of his releases are starting to drop, so you see this a ton out in the wild. But anyway, the last record that I have here that I'm going to show is Elton John, Breaking Hearts, and this was from 1980, I don't know, 82, 83, could even be 84, I don't know. The only tracks on here that I really am familiar with is Who Wears These Shoes and sad song Say So Much. But, you know, it's kind of funny to me because, you know, in the 70s, Elton John's album packaging were so elaborate. You had gatefolds, you had booklets, you had posters, you had elaborately illustrated lyric sheets. I mean, Elton John spared no expense in the 70s. You got value for your dollar when you bought an Elton John album in the 70s, and now, like in the 80s, he could not be bothered. He could not give a shit about album packaging. I mean, look at this photo, like whatever. You know, it looks like he's leaning up against a wall, like taking a snooze. He's got the brim of his hat down. I mean, he is dressed nice. You know, I like the suit. But it's just like, this is all we got. Where's the lyrics? You know, I'm sure there's an inner sleeve here. And, you know, those early Elton John albums blow. They really do. So you got some lyrics here, but who didn't have a lyric sheet like this back in the 80s? You got the members of his band there. But yeah, this album is a dollar bin record for sure. But, you know, if I wanted to sell it, if I wanted to get 25 cents for this album, maybe I could. But even Elton John fans, diehard Elton John fans, don't even want this album. Elton John himself, I'm pretty sure, doesn't even own a copy of this album. It's just mediocre, and that's being kind. It's kind of got the worst of the 80s production. But you know, at one time I was an Elton John completist, had to have everything. So I bought this up, and really the value on this is zero. Minus negative 25 cents, negative $2 even, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, those are my shit records. So what was the point of this video? I don't know. I don't remember. I'm just showing cheap ass records in my collection that I haven't purged. I can't purge because nobody wants them, and I could donate them to a dumpster probably, but you know, we don't do that with records. So anyway, hope you're doing great. I hope you're having a great week, and take care.